my Gimp screen here. All right. My Gimp screen, someone, okay, good. No, Shafika, well done. Okay, I need, okay, good. All right, okay. So the first thing we do, okay, good, well done. The first thing we do, check your windows. Make sure that you are working in single window mode. Because if you have a split window, you're going to have it difficult. You have a difficult life like this. I don't want to have something like this. Okay, so as usual, first make sure that you have a single window mode, which will make things easier, right? Okay. So for creating our logo, okay, I hope everyone is ready now. Okay, the first thing we are going to do, as we said just now in our brief intro, we normally use a canvas. And what we are going to do, we are going to go to file. Okay, we are going to go to file and we are going to create new. Okay, before I do this, let me show you what we are aiming to do. Okay, what are we aiming to do? Let me show you. Open this. Okay, we want either to have something like this, all right, or something like this. One of the two. I open one. Open. Okay, I open this. Okay, or something like this. All right, something like this, or which just give you an idea. Okay, so we are aiming either for this or the other one, right? And after, so the purpose of this activity here is actually to take you through the various tools that will actually help you to create your own logo design. Okay, so you're going to be very observant to watch the various tools that we are going to be using here and the steps we are going to be following. Okay, so that when you create your own, you can follow along. You can use the same steps. So if you are ready with your Gimp, you can follow along. All right. So I'll close this one. I hope you've been able to see what we're aiming to come up with. Something of that, this or the first one of the two, or something along those lines. Okay. But the most important thing about this is to ensure that you actually get familiar with tools in Gimp that will actually allow us to come up with something of this nature. Okay, so I'll close this. Okay, new. So the first thing we're going to do is to click new. Okay, file and new. And then we have to determine the width and length. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create width and length as 1280, and also the height will be 1280. Okay. Now you have to click advanced options. And we mentioned that one of the most important aspects in Gimp, if you want to create a logo, is to use a transparent background. So your background here should be filled with what? Does anyone remember? All right. Okay, with transparency. Right? Then you will say okay. Okay, we will say okay. So if you want to move the canvas around, okay, you can always, if you're using Windows, you can always press your space bar and your canvas can move around. You can move your canvas around. Okay, so I just use space bar and with my cursor, and I can move around my canvas. Right. Okay. Now the next step we are going to do is to add some guides. Remember, we said for um, vector graphics, we have to have some kind of uh, measurements or some kind of bit of accuracy in terms of how we actually approach the process. Okay, so one of the tools that we use here to ensure that we are on a certain kind of guide that keeps us on track of making uh, uh, our logo accurate as we want it is to use what? Guides. So how do you go to the guides? See, you go to image, okay, you go to guides here, new guide by percent. Okay, so we shall first add horizontal and showing 50%. So position in percentage should be 50%. Then you say okay. Okay. So we repeat the same process. Image, guides, new guide. This time is vertical. Position percentage 50%. Say okay. Okay, so you have your vertical and horizontal guides placed already. This will give us a better footing, a better position of where we want to actually start our process of creating our logo. Okay. Now, the next thing you're going to do before you proceed here, okay, you're going to click View and say Snap to Guides. If this Snap to Guides is not selected, select it. Why? Because whatever we want to do to design should actually snap to the guides that we have just put. Remember, we just put vertical and horizontal guides. So whatever we're going to create now will snap or will depend. The accuracy will depend. The size will depend. Our measurement will depend. Okay, it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. Muhammad is okay. It's okay. Yeah. So that's why we have to choose snap to guide. View snap to guide. So snap to guide is very important because this is where will be our determinant factor for what we are going to create. Whatever we create should actually be based on the guides that we have put. So if it is not selected, select it if you're following along. Snap to guide, right? And then once that is done, okay, you have to snap to guide. Okay. The next thing we are going to do now, we are going to look for our tools. Okay. So the first tool we are going to use is the ellipsis tools. Okay. Now, if you look at uh, my 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 tools here, because I made them bigger, even when I put glasses, I cannot still see them very well. So I made them bigger. So all my tools cannot fit here, however much I try to expand this. Right. So therefore, what I have done, I have to find out to get them from the tools panel here. Okay. So the first tool is the ellipse. Okay. So if you click tools and selection tools, you're going to see ellipse select here, which is E. If you use E, is a shortcut. You click it. Okay. So now we are using the ellipse tool or select. Okay. So we're going to bring it to the center here. Remember, we talked about the guides. We shall bring it to the center here, which is the guide. And we shall drag it down here. And then we shall Control Shift. Okay, hold Control and Shift. Okay, if you hold your Control and Shift, and then you release, you have something like this. You have your circle there. Are we together? Hello, are we together?
Doctor, Can you repeat back the ellipse step?
All right, okay. Okay, Control Z. Okay, that's undo. You go to tools. Okay. If you cannot find the ellipses here in your tools like me, go to the tools. Selection tools. Ellipse on my list is number 2, ellipse set. By letter E as a shortcut. Click it. I hope we're together now. All right. Okay. Then come here to the center. Remember our horizontal and vertical guides? So you click at the center where they intersect, right? And drag. I'm dragging down here. And then hold your control and shift. Okay, the moment I hold my control and shift, you can see my circle snapping on the guides. Okay, that's what we were talking about, right? Then release. Are we okay? Just now. Just now you asked me, are you okay now? Please notify me so that I can be able to continue. Okay, good. All right, okay. Okay, so after we do that, okay, so you can see your circle is snapping on based on the guides. Okay, so very, very important. Make sure your foreground color and background color, foreground color is black, background color is white. That's something I need to point out. Make sure your foreground color is black, background color is white. Okay, as I have it in my case here, it's black and white. So yours should be the same. All right. Okay. So after this step, okay, you are going to click edit here. Click edit. Fill with. Then you go to fill with FG color or foreground color. Okay. Okay. So once you are there, okay, if you didn't have your foreground color selected properly, then you won't have that color. Okay. And you're going to click, select, and say none. Okay. So you can see when I do that, okay, it becomes clearer. You can see the circle itself. Okay. All right. Now we are going to create a second circle in the same way, but smaller. The same way, but smaller inside the big circle. All right. So the tool we used, if you still remember, is tools, selection tools, ellipse set. Okay. We are going to create the same. I start from the center here, drag downwards. Okay, Control Shift, continue. I want to make sure that that circle is smaller compared to the original one. All right. Are we there? Okay. So that is our second circle. All right. Now, we are going to press a button on our keyboard to get rid of the area there. All right. Okay. And the button we're going to press is delete. Okay. So what we were doing now, we were creating the border for the circle, if you notice. Why we created two circles? Because we want to create the border for the circle. Otherwise, if we just have one circle, very difficult to actually have the border. So now, by creating the bigger and smaller one, and then creating, pressing delete and delete the inside, and then we have a very nice border for our circle. Right? Okay. Now, next thing we are going to do, we are going to select, click select and none. Okay. Click select. You can see, our circle is still active. If we select and do none, okay, now it's not, we have stopped editing anymore. Okay, now we have crystallized it. Okay, now we bring the opacity to 55.1. My opacity is here, right? If you remember opacity, I think you still remember opacity, something we have discussed quite often. So we want to reduce this to 55. If you still remember how the circle border was looking, when we put it at 55.1, this is how you're going to have your previous color changing. So my opacity is now at 55.1. Okay, you will see the reason why we are doing this. Okay, for differentiation, actually, before even we go further, we will want to differentiate with others, right? Okay, so far we have only one layer, right? We have one layer. And what we are going to do now, after bringing the opacity to 55.1, we are going to create a new layer on top of this layer. Okay, we are going to create a new layer on top of this layer. And if you go down here, you have the layer creation tool. Create a new layer. Okay, so create a new layer. Dialog box is here. Very, very important. Make sure that everything is width 120, 1280, height 1280, and very important, background is with transparency. Okay, background is transparency, and then okay. Okay, you click okay. Okay. Now, the next step we are going to do now, we are going to use the rectangle select tool. We want to create some kind of a rectangular shape now. Remember the sample I showed you, right? Now we are going to go to tools, selection tools. Okay. And then we have rectangle select. Click that. Okay. Tools, selection tools. Rectangle select is R. The shortcut is R. Okay. Bring the cursor to the center as usual here. Drag downwards. For this one, we make sure that when we drag, we make sure the edges, of the triangle should stick out of the circle. How do we do this? Shift and Control, drag. Remember we said we want to make sure that we have edges of the rectangle or whatever sticking out of the circle. Okay, you have the 4 edges sticking out of the circle here, then release. All right. So you have your rectangle tool, using it. Okay, and then you have your rectangle, 4 squares sticking out of the circle. Okay, click edit. Click edit, fill with FG color. Okay, fill with the foreground color. Now you're going to bring the opacity to 53 points to 50, 54 or 53.6, somewhere there. Okay, your opacity here, we're going to bring it to 50. Three. Okay, so I have 53.6.8. 53.6. 53.3. Okay. If you have a very steady hand, okay, 53.8. Okay. The more important thing here is to be able to recognize the differences between your where your circle intersects with your square or rectangle. You can see the differences in the color at the four sides, the four corners. You can see the difference because we are using different sets of opacity. That's why we can be able to detect the difference. Okay. Now select none. Okay. Select and none. Okay. Now, just like we did with the circle the other day, the other time, if you remember very well. Okay. Just like we did with the circle, we created two. We are going to create a second rectangle or square, whatever shape it is, the four-cornered shape. We are going to create another one here, okay, but smaller because we want to have a border, like we did with the circle. Okay, so we are going to go to our tools, selection tool, rectangle select. Okay, this one we're going to make it smaller. We go to our center, as usual, drag, shift control. Okay, it has to be smaller compared to the original one. Release, right? And we are going to press delete on the keyboard. Okay, press delete on the keyboard. Then go to select none. Okay. Now we are going to use another tool called the rotate tool now. Right? Why we want to use the rotate tool? Because we want to rotate the square. Okay. We want to rotate the edges and put them at around at least 15 or 45 of angle. Okay, to get what we want. Okay. So your rotate tool, you're going to go to the tools, transform tools. See, we have rotate here. This is rotate. Okay. So we are going to hold our shift and control and then rotate. All right. Okay. We want it at that angle. Using rotation tool, we are able to achieve that. Okay. Then what we're going to do, we're going to click enter on the keyboard. Okay, click enter on your keyboard to confirm that rotation. Now, the next thing we are going to do, we are going to be cutting certain areas of each circle and square to make it look either overlapping or underlapping. Okay. We shall cut out certain areas of the circle or the square to make sure to make it look overlapping or underlapping. Okay. So how we do that? We are going to go to first of all, we are going to create a new layer. All right. If you are here, you have already entered your key, you click enter on your keyboard. Okay. Our next mission is to look at certain areas or cut out certain areas of the circle or square. We want to make it look like it's either overlapping or underlapping. Right. How do we do that? Create a new layer. Create a new layer. As usual, make sure now it is auto. Okay, it will be auto. And also 1280 width and height. Background transparency, okay. It will be called tint 1 in my side. On my side, it is automatically. It could be named differently on your side, but here automatically it is tint 1, tint hash 1. Okay. All right. So now we select the middle layer. Select the middle layer. All right. If you remember, the middle layer is where we have our triangle. Right. So select the middle layer. Right click. And then click alpha to selection. Alpha to selection. Okay. Once you have done alpha selection, go to select, click select here and look for grow. Click grow. Okay. We want to grow the edges of this circle. And we are deciding to make it, to grow it by 15%. 15%, 15 pixels. Okay. 15 pixels for grow, say okay. All right. Grow 15%. Okay. Now click the top layer. Click edit. Then fill with foreground color. Okay. Fill with foreground color. Okay, you'll get something like that. Right. So that's our foreground color. Then go to select none. Okay. Go to select none. Now the next thing is to change our opacity. Change the opacity. If you go here, our opacity is here. Now this time we shall make it, let us bring our opacity to 49. 49. 49.2 here. Okay, I left at 49.2 so that I can be able to see the other objects beneath. Okay, that's how we actually now to differentiate. Okay, we are going to go to color, click colors, color, go to curves, curves. You have values here. Click value. We have red, green, blue, alpha. We shall use red value, right? And I want you to hold this line here and move, bring it up. You notice as you bring it up, your red becomes stronger in your circle, in your square. Bring it up until the end, right? So you have a very well differentiated square or rectangle, whatever it is, in red. This is how it comes. That's how you get it there. Okay, so just say okay if you have done that. Okay. Okay. If we are together until here, okay. The next tool we are going to look for is the eraser tool. Eraser. We want to do some bit of erasing here. Okay. We want to do some bit of erasing. So what we are going to do is go to tools. This time we are going to go to paint tools. Under the paint tools, you have eraser here. Okay. Because it didn't appear here, now it can appear here. Okay, once I allocate it. Okay, tools, paint tools. Your eraser symbol is Shift E. Shift E is the shortcut. Okay, your eraser tool. And you can, if your brush is bigger, you can probably reduce it to around 60 size, brush size. Okay, you can reduce your brush size. Okay, to around 60. To make it smaller. What is important, make it smaller like mine. It may automatically be big. Make it smaller now, right? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to erase segments of the red square that will overlap with the circle. Segment of the red square that overlap with the circle. So I start with this one here, erase. Okay. So I will leave this one, okay, because I'm just erasing segments, certain segments. Remember at the end, we want it to appear as if there is some kind of overlapping and underlapping. So this one I erase, this one I leave here. I'll erase this one here. I will leave this one here. I'll erase this. Okay, and I'll skip this. I'll erase this one. Okay, so your eraser tool should be able to do that. If you want, you can do both. You can erase all, wherever your circle is intersecting. Okay, here also you can erase here, you can erase here, you can erase this, you can erase that. I just want to leave it like this. Okay. All right. Now we are going to right click top layer. Right click the top layer now. We are still together here. Right click the top layer. Go to alpha selection. Okay. Alpha selection. Right. Alpha selection. And then in the corner here, on my far right, there is a delete this layer with an X. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to click the X to delete this layer. Okay, there we go. Right? Delete this layer is at the far corner of your Gimp, okay, in your tools box at the end of your right hand side. I'm not sure how yours is arranged. Okay. Click the original layer now, which is the background. Okay. Click the original layer, which is the background at the bottom. Press delete on the keyboard. Press delete on the keyboard. Okay. Go to select, none. Okay. I think you notice something here. What do you notice? Can anyone tell me what you notice? Don't be shy, feel free to say. Don't write in the chat. I can't see the chat now. What do you see? What do you notice? You have been paying attention. What do you notice? Hello?
The transparency line between the circle and rectangle.
All right, good. Okay. In certain areas, you can see the square is just trespassing the square. Okay, it's just trespassing the circle. And in some other area, it is just going above, over it. Okay. Okay. Somewhere it looks like going over. Okay. Now right click the background layer. Right click your background layer. Alpha selection. Okay, click alpha selection. Okay. Go to select. Look for grow. Okay. Make sure you have 15 pixel growth and say okay. You can see the 15% growth indicated on the circle, around the circle that we are talking about. Okay. Then click the top layer now, because we have two layers. Click the top layer. And create a new layer above that. Now we're going to create a new layer above this. Okay, click new layer, create a new layer here. Make sure you have the 1280 transparency, okay, as before, and say okay. Okay, click edit, fill with foreground color. Right, fill with foreground color. Okay, bring the opacity to 44. Our opacity is here. Bring it to 44 for differentiation purpose. Now is bring it to 44. Okay, you have 44.4. If you can bring it to 44 exactly, it will be better. Okay, 44.2, that is enough. I can still differentiate. Okay, click select and none. All right, click select and none. Okay, let's go to our colors again. Colors, curves. Values, we want to use the red channel. Red channel. Okay, get this tool here, move it up. Move it up. As you move it up, you get a clearer red. Okay, until you are there. Once you are okay, say click OK. Okay. Okay. If we are together until this stage, okay. Let's get our eraser tool again. Go to tools, paint tools, eraser. Okay, so my eraser is still having the same size. I don't have to change it. Now I want to erase the red areas coming near the square. The red areas coming near the square, like this one. I want to erase this one again. Okay. The red areas. Okay. Those red areas. Okay. Okay. Right click the top layer. Okay, right click the top layer. Alpha selection. Alpha selection. Okay. Now middle layer. Okay. Click the middle layer. Press your delete on the keyboard. And then click select none. Select none. Okay. Now click the top layer. We are going to delete this layer. In the corner, in the far right corner of our tools, here below, we have an X. So we're going to click the X to delete that layer. Okay. There we go. Okay. Let's bring the opacity now to 100 for both. Okay. Bring the opacity to 100. Okay. For our square. Now click the background layer. Bring the opacity to 100. Okay. So we have brought back the opacity to 100. We were reducing before for purposes of differentiation to see the differences, where we can do erasing and where there is intersection, what we want to do, where we don't want to do. Now we go back. We bring back to 100% for each, for both of them, right? Now we can see clearly the border for our logo. The borders are very clear now, okay? Now what do we need to do? We want to add some text. Okay. Okay. So our borders are very clear. To make sure your borders are clear, you must go back, bring back your opacity at the end to 100 for both of them. Okay. Now it's time to add some text. To do that, we have to click the top layer here. Okay. And then click the text tool. Click your text tool. When we click the text tool, we can choose the font from here. Choose text tool. One of the things we can do is to do this, and then we can, here is, we have, here we can choose the pixels, right? Okay. So here I chose Rockwell bold previously. So I'm using the same. Okay. So you choose, okay, from the options, you choose your text tool, choose your font. Okay, click on canvas here. And then you're going to type. Okay, I'll type logo here. All right. You can increase the size here. Okay, I think that size will be okay. So another thing you want to do, you can use your move tool. If you think where your logo is not the right place, as it is in this case, you go to the tools, okay, transform tools, you click move tool. You click move, and then you can move this logo to where you want it. I want it here. I want it at the center here, at the intersection of vertical and horizontal. Okay, so you can do that. You can move it using your move tool. And the easiest way to get your move tool is tools, transform tools, then you have your move tool. You click on it and then move it where you want it to be. Yeah. Once you're satisfied with it, that this is what you want, okay? So this is very important. If this is exactly what I want, I have edited this text first. Once I'm satisfied with it and I want it to stay there, I'll go to layer and I'll say cropped content. Crop to content. If you take this step and you still want to go back to edit, it's impossible. You cannot do it anymore. So you can only crop to content after you have done everything, because now it is going to change from text, editable text, to partial image, right? And you cannot edit an image. It will be very difficult. That's why you make sure that whatever you want to do with your text, like for my logo here, I have done it and I'm satisfied. Then I'll go, I want to crop it to content by going to layer, crop to content. So I'm going to almost turn it to almost an image, all right? And it will be difficult for you to edit that. So I say crop to content because I'm happy with that. Okay. Now the only option you have now is you can use alignment tool. Alignment tool, go to tools, transform, align. Align. So it becomes your alignment tool here. So why do I want to align? Sometimes maybe you may want to change a few things. Okay. So you align tool, you could use the align tool if you want to do alignment, because you cannot do any editing anymore, but you can do alignment, right? So okay, so the next thing we're going to do, Control Z, Control Z. Redo, 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 kill it, redo, edit, redo, edit, redo, edit, redo. Okay, so if you accidentally click anything, you can always redo. You can always the redo. You can always use the redo option there. All right. Okay, and then you go back to where you were. So we want to add some other text. Okay, we want to add some other text. So what we do, we can want to add some other text here. We click the text tool, click here, and then I will say brilliant. Okay, I'm adding some other tool, some other text here, which is brilliant. I call it brilliant. Okay. Now I want to duplicate this layer because I want to add some other tool. I will do, instead of doing it twice, I will now duplicate this layer. Okay. Once I duplicate this layer, I'll use the move tool, tools, transform, move, and I will take this one and bring it here. Okay. And once I bring it here, select the text tool, and I want to edit this. And I want to change it to something like design. Design. Okay. So what we can do here, we can still use the same move tool. To move this one. This is design. We want to move this one, brilliant. Okay, use your move tool. If you want to move design, you have to go to design and then you move your design. All right. So I may bring it here probably. Okay, brilliant. Let me align it together. And then go to design here, bring it here as well. Right. So brilliant logo design. Okay, something like that. Now the next thing we can do, Once we are happy with this, with the design, okay, we can just go to layer and we say cropped content. Okay, the same thing we can do with Brilliant. We'll go to layer and say cropped content. All right, now if we want to, you can use the zoom tool now to either zoom in or with the control zoom out. Okay, control zoom out, and then we can you can zoom in. All right, and then we can export. Okay, remember we said we want to export this. When we export this, it has to be what file format? Who remembers? What's the best file format for vector graphics in Gimp?
SVG, Doctor?
SVG or SVG, yes.
Another one, I can't remember.
All right, okay, good. So SVG and also PNG. Okay, so here we say, that's why we say file export as. Okay, then you choose your PNG, you export. Okay, so instead of save as, you export as, then you choose from the file selection .png with the transparent background. Okay, so transparent backgrounds are preferred when you are creating logos before you go into the details of putting colors, because it gives a crystal clear, it's more clear and it's preferred. Some of the best logos they say are mostly designed on transparent backgrounds. They leave them transparent. Okay, except a few organizations or companies that need color, they actually add color. But the basic foundation is transparency, yeah, transparent background. All right, okay. I want to see who has been following along. I want you to share with me those who have been following along. Okay, I stop sharing. Who has been following along? Share with me. Share here we see. Anisha, okay. Share with us what you have been doing when you were following along. Whoever followed along, show us what you were able to capture. Anissa, your hand is up. Share with us what you've been able to. Okay. If you are not able to finish it up, but following along, okay, now finish it and share. Oh, someone is sharing. Anisha is sharing. I'm waiting to see. Unfortunately, on my side, I don't see. All right. Yes. Nuranisa. This is Nuranisha's shared content. Well done, Nuranisa. I can see Nuranisha's creation. Well done, Nuranisa. Well done, well done. Now, Nuranisa, you have to start creating it. I want you to start. After you finish this, the next task is for you to create your own based on what you want. Okay? Assume you have an organization or company and you want to create a logo. So you're going to create a logo for your company. or your organization. But before you do that, share with me the one we have just done now as you follow along. So Nuranisa, well done. Like Nuranisa has just shared